Hello, ladies and gentlemen, that sign that keeps wanting to give me a high five when I'm halfway through crossing the street. My name is Chains. Welcome to the Chains Project. Today's reading is Genesis chapter 12, verse 1 to 9, the Call of Abram. Finally, it's not a genealogy. Let us rejoice.
Now the Lord said to Abram, Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and the one who curses you I will curse. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. So Abram went, as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he had departed from Haran. Abram took his wife Sarai and his brother's son Lot, and all the possessions that they had gathered, and the persons whom they had acquired in Haran, and they set forth to go to the land of Canaan. When they had reached the land of Canaan, Abram passed through the land to the place of Shechem, to the oak of Moreh. At that time the Canaanites were in the land. Then the Lord appeared to Abram and said, To your offspring I will give this land. So he built there an altar for the Lord, who had appeared to him. From there he moved on to the hill country on the east of Bethel, and pitched his tent, with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. And there he built an altar to the Lord, and invoked the name of the Lord. And Abram journeyed on by stages towards the Negeb.
Was that a girl? Sorry about that. To summarize what the attractive female said, was that basically God was like, Hey Abraham, you should go over here, and I'll give you all of these magical gifts. Well, promises. They're not really actually gifts. They're things that I might do. But you gotta go to this place. And so Abraham was like, alright, awesome, I'll totally go there. And then Lot was like, I want to come too, I have a slingshot, like a little kid. And then they were like, Abraham was really old when he decided to do this, and then everybody went with him to the place. And Abraham was like, it's a boring long walk. And then they finally got somewhere by a tree, and God was like, woo, more magical mysticist God talking to you stuff. And then Abraham was like, alright, I will make an altar. And he built an altar. And then he was like, let's go over somewhere else. And so he got somewhere else. And then Abraham built an altar. And then he decided to end up going somewhere else. He's just on an altar building marathon, I think. To go into a little bit more detail than just God said magical stuff to Abraham, this is actually the Abrahamic covenant. So it's a really awesome one where God details 4 things that all Jewish people are now entitled to. First thing that God decides is that he's going to make a great nation for all of the children of Abraham, and that they will be able to have this great nation, which is aka the Promised Land. And God has fulfilled this part of the covenant with Israel, even if he wasn't really a part of it, and it was more of just people going there and saying this is the Holy Land. The second part that God has decided to do is he's going to make Abraham's name great, which is a really awesome thing. Which, he didn't say how he's going to make it great. It could be great like Alexander the Great or Nikola Tesla, or it could be really bad like Hitler and Stalin. And God followed through on this, and I think I'll give you guys a really good example from my copy of the 1966 Encyclopedia Britannica. We've got the start of Abraham all the way up here, and it goes down, down, down until we get to here, where's the plans of Abraham. So Abraham's a pretty popular guy. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam all look at him as a father figure of religion, and his name is known almost throughout the world, almost as popular as Jesus, but Jesus kind of wins because he's God's son. Kind of trumps just being Abraham. The third thing God's going to do is he's going to bless the people who bless Abraham and also curse those who curse him. So that means if you're like, hey Abraham, have a good day, God says, have a good day to you. And if you're like, hey Abraham, screw you, you're playing music too loud in your car, dude. God's like, no, you're playing music too loud in your car. And there's some pretty good evidence of this. The people of Abraham are considered to be the Jews. If you look at any nations which have persecuted the Jews, Nazi Germany, pretty evident there. In the USSR there was also some, and both of those have fallen, and they're not around anymore, and everybody hates them, as I stated earlier with my examples of Hitler and Stalin. But if you look at the US, which is a big friend of Israel, the US is doing awesome. I mean, if they have some problems and government issues. But is this an exact example? Not really. You can really skew anything to say that, the Jews are doing good, and you can also say that the people who are mean to the Jews are doing bad. But it's not a universal thing. You can't exactly tell. So I'm pretty sure there's some Jewish kid who's like, oh, that guy's been picking on me, but he's doing way better than me. And that guy who's my best friend, his life sucks. So it's not exactly on a universal scale. And the fourth thing that God decides to talk about, he's going to bless all the families through Abraham on earth. And he's followed through on this, which is, I think, I'm going to tell you, but it's a little bit of a spoiler. So, cover your ears or whatever you want to do, is that Jesus eventually comes out of the family line of Abraham. And I think that's, justification enough, because when you're the great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandpa of Jesus, you've got some accreditation on your job resume to hand in. And one of the things I found a little bit odd was that God said he had to leave his family, but Abraham takes Lot and Sarai and they go off, which I think is, going against what God said, even though God's still just like, alright, awesome, it's totally cool. I find it kind of odd personally that God says something and then somebody doesn't do it and then he doesn't really, go, oh, wait a minute, I just said you can't do that. So either he didn't really care or he actually changed the outcome and the blessing that Abram got was like a secondary blessing because he kind of screwed up. And that there could have been a better one, but maybe, maybe not. It's just my personal opinion. I'm probably wrong. Please tell me how I'm wrong. And to finally cap off, we do get some geographical locations, and I decided to put that second to the amazingness of a covenant. Because, covenants are awesome. Talks about the Tree of Moreh, which is near modern-day Nablus, in between Mount Ebal and Mount Gerizim, which I'm probably saying all of those wrong, because I'm so good at talking with English. And all of this is supposed to be about 30 miles just north of Jerusalem, justifying it as the holy city for some reason, which is why people there are fighting over it, because that's the land that God said, Abram gets to have. And then Abram decides to move 20 miles south to Bethel and hang out there for a little while. And then Abram decides to go off to Negab, which isn't really actually a place, it more just means the southern area or the western area, so it went in a southwest direction away from Bethel. That's all we really know until next chapter. And that has been it for this episode of The Chains Project. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you to our fans who have been awesome so far and sending in things. Remember, if you want to get your opinion heard, just leave a comment or question, concern, cranberry, or cockatoo down below, or send me an email. That's how it happens. It's magical like that. And I was working on an outro, but I was trying to teach my dog Spanish. Alright, and the fourth thing that God was, camera. No, you died. No.